Joining me now for this philosophical discussion is one of my favorite philosophical interlocutors, Ellis Henican, the silver-haired devil you see on television, is a columnist for Newsday and is one of our favorites, and he's a big, giant, deep blue lib.
So, John, I am so excited. You're going to leave me something in your will?
Well, let's say I do. Let's say I do. Let's say I say, you know what? Ellis Henican contributed greatly to the great success of the John Gibson show, so I drop over dead here on the air, which is how it's going to happen. And I want to leave something to Ellis Henican. Why should Obama or whoever occupies is the head of the government? Why should they be able to take a third of it?
Well, I have some good news for you. If you and Mrs. Gibson can give away as much as $10 million without a single penny of tax, so you could give me 9, you could split up the other one, with the rest of the family, and you'd not have to pay a penny.
Well, are you some sort of charitable repository? Can I give you money without it being taxed?
Absolutely. Under the new estate tax deal, there is an exemption, a complete exemption, $5 million for an individual or $10 million for a couple, on which there is no tax at all, zero tax.
I know that part. Yeah. I mean, but suppose
make it $1 billion.
Suppose the couple owns $25, $30 million worth of stuff. Why should that amount above $10 million be confiscated at the 1/3 rate?
Oh, I see what you're arguing. This is the we shouldn't have to pay taxes argument. I mean,
I would if I had the $25 million. Right. I already paid the taxes.
Well, yeah, but
let me. I want to see where you're at here because the argument
I'm gonna lay it out.
Let me lay it out and see if you agree with this. The argument from Anthony Weiner is, no, John, you are dead. You have no right to say what happens with the stuff you've got left over.
Yeah.
And if you leave it to Ellis or your grandkids, that's unearned income to them, and so we're going to take the third.
Yeah, and I think at some level that's probably appropriate. First of all, let me shoot down your one tax theory, which is the idea that because you paid tax when you earned it, it should never be taxed again. I mean, you pay sales taxes with the money, you pay property taxes, you pay hundreds of kinds of different taxes.
Yeah, but I don't pay tax.
Once doesn't mean you never pay taxes.
No, but it doesn't mean I'm taxed on that money.
Well, you're not taxed on.
I might use that money to pay taxes on other things, but I don't. It's a nation argument. Make the argument that the government has a right to double tax.
Well, clearly the government has a right. This thing has been challenged in court. It's been around for decades.
Which is a philosophical discussion. I don't care about Judge Napolitano here.
Right. No, that's not illegal. But here's the argument in favor of it, though, and at least calculate this into your thinking, because I know you're a decent person.
You are not going to start talking deficit to me.
You want to do your fair. Is it? Listen, we have had a situation in this country where the concentration of wealth has gotten into. No, hold on a second. This actually matters. We don't want to be like one of those Latin American countries where like 1% owns 90% of the good stuff. We don't want to be like that.
You know what? Okay, I think everybody you can talk into that position should write a check to the government just before they die and give the government what they want to give the government.
Well, if human nature were different, we wouldn't have to have taxes at all. We could just tithe voluntarily.
Right. And Bill Gates and Warren Buffett should. If they think they're not taxed enough, they should write a check. Right. But what you are saying is because of these social inequities, and we don't want to be Europe.
Right.
My desires about what I want to happen to my wealth when I expire just doesn't count.
Of course it doesn't count. Of course it doesn't.
Why doesn't it count?
Your desires, John, your desires about what happens with the millions you take home from your broadcasting career, you don't have control over whether you pay taxes or not. It's the law. We've made a social compact.
I already paid that.
I'm sorry?
I already paid that.
Right. And you didn't like paying that either, did you?
What I got left is what I want to keep until I die, and then I want to give it to certain people, Ellis Henican among them. Yeah. And what I find is when my ghost, the ghost of Jacob Marley, attends the reading of my will, there's somebody sitting there I never invited, and it's the U.S. government.
Uncle Fingers has showed up for the reading.
Exactly. Now, because you're laughing about this, I realize that you realize the absolute absolute absurdity of this and that you ought to be against it.
Well, listen, I'm torn like all of us are. I'm hoping to inherit huge amounts of money from my relatives, and I would like every single penny to end up in my pocket. But you know what? I am a grown-up, and I do have a little bit of a social conscience, and I understand why we have a progressive tax system, so those who have more pay a little proportionately a little bit more.
And they did. And this is what was left.
Right. And we don't only tax these once, we tax it on sales and on property. That's just part of the way. You know what? We can get rid of the, would you rather do this? Let's get rid of the estate tax and then just jack up those rates on the high earners on their income.
No,
I mean,
let's
money. That'd probably be okay.
Let's pretend that we taxed whatever money there was, and we are blind to what people have accumulated after they've paid their tax. Let us be Lady Liberty with the blindfold over our eyes, shall we?
I would be okay with that if you had not just done that "no billionaires left behind" argument about the Bush tax cuts. There's never a point at which you seem to want the super rich to pay a little bit extra. Is there? When does that day come?
They pay the majority.
They already pay most of what you collect.
Well, in some taxes that's true, and in others it's not true. If you look at the FICA tax, for instance, the poor people pay more than their share. In order to
set this question up for the callers,
lay it open. I mean.
Let me set this up this way. Ellis Henican is in favor of you having to give 55%.
Wait, it's a third.
Well, but 55 is what you wanted, and I want 0.
Yeah.
Who is right, Ellis Henican or John Gibson? 888-788-9910. Make your final argument before I have to leave you.
Listen, we all would prefer to pay no taxes.
Yes,
somehow or another, we have a lot of stuff we want to do as a country. Some of it is expensive, and you got to pay for it somehow. And the worst way isn't taking it away, a little bit of it away from the people who are leaving estates of $10+ million. That's a lot of money. Those people should kick in a little extra, shouldn't they? That's not me and you. That's those people. Don't forget.
They should decide. If they want to leave it to you, they'll write a check before they die, or they'll include you in the will. You shouldn't
give them my address, John.
You shouldn't show up with a gun and say I'm taking it.
Listen, taxes. We have to pay taxes. You'd rather not, but we have to, don't we?
No, you can cut spending and really cut the amount of taxes.
Okay, and I'll give you my list of how we're going to cut. Okay.
I'll give you mine.
Which aircraft carrier?
USS John Gibson.
I'm sure you want the United States Marines to shut down, but we're not going to let you do that.
Okay.
Ellis Henican, check him out in Newsday, the newspaper of New York. He's a columnist there, and of course you see him on Fox News as